This is how we bought a house.
Without any house hunting.
Surprise!
We bought a house.
And it was not how we planned at all.
No.
Grab a coffee, grab a drink, sit in a nice comfy chair, because it's story time.
About a year and a half ago, we decided we wanted to move away from our old home in Grand Prairie. So we set a plan in place to sell our house. We also came down to Vancouver Island where we were hoping to move and met with a realtor, got on his list and started watching listings.
And that's when reality sunk in that we were gonna have to make some lifestyle changes and house expectation changes.
Sacrifices.
That sounds a lot more severe than changes. But.
Once we started looking at all of the house listings and what they were being listed for and selling for, we had a pretty good idea of what we'd actually be able to afford moving from our market to a much more expensive market.
And competitive market.
We had a pretty clear idea of what we wanted, and I will tell you, looking at the realtor listings in our price range, there was next to nothing.
It was depressing.
That actually met what we could afford. And if we could afford it, it was like the very top of our budget, gave us no money to renovate with.
We also questioned if we were being responsible parents because we just moved here gung-ho. Yeah, the house will sell, brought all our stuff, brought our kids, signed our kids up for school, and then our house didn't sell. And we're like, was this responsible?
I mean, we're laughing now, but moving is one of the most stressful things you will ever do in your life.
Oh, look how much hair I lost through this whole...
Yes, it was the moving that did that.
So the house that we ended up buying actually was listed about a month after we started listing ours. And at that point, the price was higher and we knew it was out of our budget, but I liked it immediately. Lindy had kept saying, and I think it was more to kind of prep me because we probably weren't going to get the house, that she's like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah, I definitely thought we could not afford that house.
She didn't want me to get my hopes up, but it was too late and I already really liked it. And we hadn't even physically seen it. We drove by it. So that's the next part of the story. We got to the island and we went to visit some family, my uncle from my mom's side, and actually he just lives down the road from the house we ended up buying. And so we went for coffee, they got to see the kids and kind of catch up. And we had mentioned that there's this house down the road that we thought was kind of cool, but it was out of our price point at that time.
But here's what happened when we fast forward 4 months from then. Now it is December, our house has sold in Grand Prairie and we were ready to go pack up that house.
We went up after Christmas, Boxing Day, drove up to Grand Prairie to pack up our house with our kids in the cold winter. We got everything packed. We left one trailer in Grand Prairie. I hauled a U-Haul back in the winter with a truck and all the kids. And then we went to the mainland, White Rock, to hang out with some family for New Year's. Now it's after New Year's. We just had a nice relaxing time with the family, but we're still pretty tired. The packing and the driving was a lot. And we're ready just to get back to our rental and relax a little bit, kind of regroup and come up with a plan for buying a house.
At this point, I was planning to do a big house hunting YouTube video. I was gonna film the whole process. We talked to our realtor about filming going into the houses, but it did not go as planned.
No, we were coming home on the ferry and our kids told us we were starving, so we splurged. I don't normally buy ferry food because it's expensive, but this comes into play a little bit down in the story. So I get a phone call, which also isn't typical on the ferry. The cell service can be really spotty. And it's my Uncle Tony. I answer and he's like, hey Russell, that house that you said you liked is dropping in price this evening. And we were like, oh, and then we were like,
so he had inside information from the homeowner who he happened to know.
So he had let us know what the price was going to drop to, and then we're like, oh wow, that's actually where we thought we could go in at and have some money for renovations, and that was a number in our head that we had thought it was kind of worth to us. I get off the phone from my uncle, and we give our realtor a call and see if we can schedule a viewing for the next day. He said, sure, let me see what we can do, and he was going to get back to us.
So he called us back a few minutes later. Bad news, there's already an offer on the house that closed that night at 10 p.m. And if we wanted to do anything, we had to put an offer in that night. So we were like, can we see this house tonight? And he arranged that. He was amazing. We pretty much drove off the ferry and straight to this house. Our realtor had flashlights in hand, and we saw this house for the first time in the evening, in the dark.
And that comes back to, we were thankful for buying the expensive ferry food because at least our kids weren't starving.
Yeah. So we looked at the house. It pretty much hit everything on our must-have. It definitely hit everything on our must-have list. It was a fixer-upper by our standards.
5 bedrooms.
5 bedrooms.
2 baths.
Tons of parking space. Half-acre lot. And it had this massive bonus of having an ocean view off the entire back deck, even the main floor.
Even the garage. So 10-minute walk to the ocean. It's like 10-minute walk to an amazing trail system. It has a workshop already built into the basement. It has a carport. It has a wraparound driveway. It could park all the toys and then some.
And it's a great little community with a park nearby and an outdoor pool. It literally hit all of our must-haves and almost all of our wants, and even some of our bonuses, which we thought were like never gonna happen.
And even some extra things that we didn't think about, like the yard has fruit trees, which is really cool. So I think we found out about the house around 5 o'clock, and we were in the house at 7:45 to view. We put an offer in at 9:50, and at like 10:10 we won the offer. The realtor got back to us and he said the house was ours.
And I had sent a little blurb about our family. I had sent a photo of our family, and the realtor told us that she picked us because she hoped that a family would move into this house. So I was really glad that I sent all of that stuff along, and we were super happy that we got the house that night.
Our offer was accepted, but we did have some conditions to meet before it was fully ours. Then one thing came up, and that was there was an underground oil tank.
I had never come across this before, but there are underground oil tanks that people used to use to heat their homes, and this area had them in a lot of the homes. This is a home from like the 60s.
Yeah.
So that was something we didn't expect that then we had to deal with. Luckily, we had some really great people, really great companies that were able to come and deal with that pretty quickly. And that oil tank was dealt with and gone before we even moved into the house.
Yeah. So, and we got a parking pad for the RV out of the deal.
Yes.
So it all worked. It was stressful though. I mean, there was these little things and you don't know how it's going to play out. You read these things online on like some of the worst case scenario of these oil tanks, and we're like, well, what did we get ourselves into? But thankfully it all worked out, and we now own an ocean view home.
We have a full empty house tour coming your way where we have filmed all the rooms, and hopefully you'll get a good idea of the layout and some of our renovation plans for the space.
Also, with buying the house, it came with a renter, and that's why this is a little bit postponed, is because we had to deal with evicting the renter in the basement, and just we had to give them 2 months notice, and we didn't really want to start this whole process of sharing the house with everyone until we had the renter gone, so that we could deal with viewing the basement and all that fun stuff.
Hopefully you guys will be excited to follow along with our West Coast reno. This house is going to get quite a bit of an overhaul. There'll be some professionals coming in, some walls being taken down, and we're just excited to start the process. So stay tuned for that empty house tour to hear some of our plans.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and yeah, stay tuned for exciting things on our channel.